Okay, well, welcome back to VETS TV, and we're sitting here discussing different problems and availability of services through the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm sorry, I want to say the Veterans Administration, but that's because I'm old, okay, on this. But I think that the important point for most of you who are watching is if you know somebody who's a veteran or their family members and they may need some assistance, you should contact them and tell them to raise their hand. I mean, there's a lot of programs, literally hundreds of programs available through the Department of Veterans Affairs that most people have no idea. I, as in being involved in this particular program, have gone to looking at websites and other things and found a maze of veteran benefits that I had no idea were even available to veterans. And I think that most people just only have heard of a couple of things like the GI Bill of going to college and the help for homes and a few things and some medical help for veterans. But there are just tons of things available to veterans. So I think that's where we want to finish up here and try to see what Maryland's own Department of Veterans Affairs can help you to find the things that you need that are available to veterans. You've earned this stuff during your service. Many of you served during very difficult times, during wars, and even without wars, many times the service is very arduous and very difficult. I spent a lot of time in doing things long before I went into Vietnam that were not fun to do, but we needed to do those particular things. Anyhow, I think at this particular point I'm going to refer it over to Jared and have him start some questioning of our guest, Phil.
Thank you, Bill. Phil, one of the things you mentioned earlier is through the state, depending upon your level of disability, 10%, 50%, 100%, there are certain additional state benefits. Maybe briefly you could highlight some of the key benefits, and also our viewers should be aware that on your website there is a list of benefits per rating, 10% and such, what you're entitled to from the state. Could you address that?
Sure, Ken. I don't know, be quite honest, I want to make sure that we're clear there. I'm not sure if this has been posted on our website. I'll find out. And these benefits we're talking about are ancillary benefits, not only from the state, but how the three elements of the VA kind of interact. So it's state and federal benefits there. For example, a veteran with a 0% service-connected disability, which means the VA recognizes there's a disability there as a result of service. It may not be severe enough for the VA to compensate that veteran for. There's no monetary benefit, but that veteran can be treated for that condition then for the rest of their life at no cost. Hearing loss. Bill, I'm sitting here looking at your one hearing aid. I'm thinking, well, hearing loss is a very common disability that our veterans exposed to loud noise and service experience. You do have to have some impaired hearing before the VA will recognize it, but if it's there and they recognize it even at 0%, they'll treat it at no cost. And of course the treatment then would be hearing aids, which on the outside, as many people are very expensive. You get them at no cost.
And the hearing aids that I'm wearing are provided by the Veterans Administration or the Veterans Affairs. And the problem is these particular hearing aids are first-class hearing aids, and they would be very expensive on the outside. The glasses I have were provided by the VA, and so and the artificial leg that I wear is provided by the Veterans Administration or Department of Veterans Affairs. So I think that it's important to realize that there are numbers of really important services and things that you can get from the department, the VA, and the cost of these on the outside would be very, very expensive.
You're absolutely right. Another one, a little known VA benefit, for example, is life insurance. If you're a veteran and you have a 10% service-connected disability or even a 0% and you have no life insurance, that opens up the possibility of you getting some life insurance from the VA. We mentioned earlier, of course, that a veteran could be buried at a Maryland state cemetery at no charge, but if they had, that's just the burial. The funeral or the cremation costs are not covered in that, and those, cremation can be relatively inexpensive, about $2,500 or so, but the Maryland state's not going to cover that. So there is the ability to get life insurance if you establish that you have a service-connected disability. Just some other things, of course, at the 10% rate, again, VA medical treatment for any condition, as we mentioned before, and there's no cost. For any time you would go to the VA, there's no charge for any of those services. The worst they would do is charge $8 or $9 for a 30-day supply of medicine for non-service related conditions, and those that can be a tremendous help to some folks. At the 50% rate, for example, veterans with a 50% service-connected disability, there's no charge for anything when you go to the VA. No treatment, no medications, nothing. So when you go, their services are completely free. As you mentioned, Bill, you have a number of service-connected conditions yourself. Though these access to health care can be critical for our vets as they move along in their geriatric years. And one I did want to mention specific to the state of Maryland, for those veterans who have a 100% service-connected disability, is the property tax exemption, which is a tremendous benefit. Can lower property taxes for vets with a 100% service-connected disability. All these things, as you mentioned, and how we feel, within the state of Maryland, we don't give anybody anything. All we're doing is helping a veteran access what they have already earned. So that's all we do there. We're there to serve those who have served this great country, and you're absolutely right that come in and sit down with us one-on-one, and we'll make sure that the last thing I ever want is somebody walking out of a state of Maryland office with misinformation or not enough information, and that just won't happen with us.
One last question, and that is, for those who don't have internet access, is there a main number for the Veterans Affairs Department in the state of Maryland that you can call, and they will be able to direct you to wherever you need to go, including local offices?
There sure is, and they can call my office, my 1-800 number, which is 1-800-446-4926, and then 6450 is the operator extension, and you can get information right there at that number, and we'll refer you to the appropriate agency.
Perfect. Well, we want to thank Phil Munley for joining us today on our program, and I think that Phil provided us with a wealth of information. I want to thank Bill, too, for helping to amplify the discussion with some real-world personal experience, which is very important in understanding how our system works for VA benefits here in Maryland and also at the federal level. Bill, do you have any closing remarks before we?
Well, the only closing remark I would make is real simple. One of the things is I've worked in the VA system both here and in California before I moved here. And I think that one of the things is that the veterans must realize that the medical services and the other services available are really good services. They're not second-rate services. I know that the main hospital and other facility in downtown Baltimore has a connection to the University of Maryland Hospital, and they use University of Maryland hospital doctors and people there. I know that the facilities that I've dealt with, both at Perry Point and at Cambridge and other facilities, the people there, first of all, try very hard to do a good job for you. I haven't run into too many people who are, sometimes you run into medical people and they're really kind of down, and I've not run into that in the VA. Most of them are personable. They try to get you what you need. They try to set up appointments so you're not standing around waiting for hours and those kinds of things. So I found that the medical benefits are not second class. And the medical, for example, all I do is pick up a telephone and I call, and I can get certain prescriptions that are sent to me, and they're just sent right in the mail. I don't have to go to Perry Point, which is a long drive from here. I just call them up and they send it to me. So I think one of the things is that some people are concerned that you're going to have to go stand in line someplace and do this kind of stuff. I found that that's not true, and I found in dealing with Janet Thomas over in her Herlock and having her help me, they had that all set up. I wasn't sitting over there for hours waiting for somebody to try to get something done. They had time set up for me, went in there and took care of business. So I think that some of us have this, we always remember in the Army or whatever service we served in, we hurried up and waited for hours and hours and hours. I found that the VA, both the Maryland part of it and the federal part of it, does a pretty good job of not having you stand around and wait and do a lot of things. For example, even Cambridge, they run buses almost every morning from Cambridge to the main hospitals in downtown Baltimore, to Perry Point and to other facilities. So they've got it all pretty well covered for you. So I wouldn't be worried that somehow you're going to be standing around waiting for the first sergeant to come in and get things going for you, okay? Doesn't work that way. So I think it's a highly professional organization, and I think the benefits available are good benefits for all veterans. So
thank you, Bill. And again, Bill and I want to thank Phil Munley, the Director of Services and Benefits for the Maryland State Department of Veterans Affairs, for joining us and providing a wealth of very useful information for our veterans. On behalf of Bill and I and our guest, Phil Munley, we thank you for watching VETS TV today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.